Welcome back, everybody. This is Rick Pettigrew. Stay with us now for the latest batch of breaking news stories from around the world in the audio news from Archaeologica. Every week, we pick 4 of the best stories posted by our partner, Archaeologica.org. Send us feedback on the Archaeology Channel Facebook page or post a message on our social networking site, ArchaeoSeek. A rare glass bead from a Chinese tomb tells us about contacts between China and the Middle East 2.5 millennia ago. Excavations in the Orkney Islands north of Scotland reveal evidence of a huge Iron Age feast. Underwater archaeologists in Naples, Italy, have found evidence of an early port taken from the Etruscans by the Greeks. And a new study undertaken in Texas is getting a look at how food would have aged in ships bound from England to the earliest American colonies. The audio news team would like to thank our friends for helping us continue the show without a break for nearly 17 years. If you're not already a supporting member, please go to archaeologychannel.org and click on the donate button. We can use all the help we can get. And now here's Laura Pettigrew with the audio news from Archaeologica. We hope you find this to be a valuable part of your day.
Welcome to the audio news from Archaeologica. I'm Laura Pettigrew, and these are the headlines in archaeological and historical news from March 11th to the 17th, 2018. We begin this week in Changsha, China, where an unusually shaped glass bead from a tomb dating from the Warring States period of 475 to 221 BC is evidence of early cultural exchange between China and the West. Measuring 3.1 centimeters, or slightly over an inch, in diameter, the blue and white glass bead is shaped to have protruding peaks or horns decorated with concentric circles. According to Shi Paishen of the Hunan Institute of Archaeology, several of the horns have been broken off, with only 7 remaining. The effect of the horns resembles the compound eye of an insect, such as a dragonfly, hence the common name for these, horned eye beads. As reported by Xinhua Net newspaper, the bead was discovered in 2017 in a tomb complex in Zhongfang County, Hunan Province, located in southern China. Around 200 tombs from between the Warring States period and the Western Han Dynasty of 206 BC to AD 25 have been found since excavations here began in 2012. The glass of the bead is high in lead and barium, a combination peculiar to China, but the horned eye shape is known from Egypt, where it is known as the Eye of Horus bead, as well as from Mesopotamia, Persia, and India. The shape was introduced to China during the spring and autumn period between 771 and 476 BC and the following Warring States period. Chinese people improved the glassmaking by using barium and lead to make such beads. Such beads were used as a decoration on clothes, furniture, and accessories. The discovery is new evidence that East Asia had close cultural and technological exchanges with West Asia, North Africa, and India thousands of years ago. More than 170 other cultural items have come from the tombs, including pottery, bronze swords, and a bronze dagger axe. On the islands of Orkney, off northeast Scotland, archaeologists have identified the site of a huge Iron Age feast, where more than 10,000 animals were cooked and eaten in a vast cliff-top celebration. Tests have shown that horses, cattle, red deer, and otters were on the menu at the gathering above Windwick Bay, South Ronaldsay Island, not far from the Scottish mainland more than 1,700 years ago. Archaeologists from the University of the Highlands and Islands have been working at the site, known as the Cairns, for several years. As reported by the Scotsman newspaper, many jewelry fragments and tools have also been found in the remains of an Iron Age metalworking site. The activity focused on making brooches or pins. According to Martin Carruthers of the University of the Highlands and Islands, or UHI, the huge number of animals indicates that the feast was doing 2 things. First, it probably was celebrating the successful conclusion of the making of a big batch of jewelry. It probably was the arena where pins and brooches were being handed out to individuals within the community. Second, the event likely maintained and reinforced the structure of Iron Age society on the island at a time when the Romans occupied territory farther south on the mainland. A large rectangular building at the site, with a huge central hearth, dates to around the time of the feasting event and perhaps represents the residence of a powerful household that organized the production and distribution of the valuable jewelry pieces. The leaders of this project had either to organize the metalworkers on site or bring in traveling workers, Whichever they did, the leaders needed the assent of people to do that, and in return it is thought they offered gifts. According to Carruthers, the brooches probably were of such high value that people could never have the capacity to pay back the debt. The gifts and feasting thus signified and cemented the bond between the organizers and their workers and guests. Like a modern gathering for a week-long music festival, the activity helped maintain society as a cohesive group. A giant open-air feast also would have been one way that Iron Age society expressed identity and solidarity. In Italy, archaeologists say that an ancient port in Naples, off the iconic Castel dell'Ovo, is the harbor called Pellepolis by the Greeks, after they ousted the Etruscans 2,500 years ago. Underwater archaeologists have found 4 submerged tunnels, a 3-meter-wide street with cart furrows still showing, and a long trench below the outside of the castle. According to Neapolitan archaeologist Mario Negri, the discovery opens up a new scenario for reconstructing the ancient structure of Pellepolis. The first settlements in the area were made in the 9th century BC, nearly 3,000 years ago, when merchants from Anatolia and the Greek mainland came to trade for minerals around the Tyrrhenian Sea. They found Parthenope in this area and gave the Isle of Megaride its name that still survives today. Parthenope began as a small commercial harbor, which, thanks to the continuing trading traffic, expanded into a town in its own right. At that time, however, the coastline was subject to continual violent clashes in the struggle for trade dominance, especially between the Greeks and the Etruscans. After a long period of rule by the Etruscans, Greek settlers took over, and around 474 BC, Parthenope was repopulated and rebuilt under the name of Pellepolis. This led to greater Greek settlement on the coast of Campania. Greek settlers built a new and larger economic and commercial center nearby, protected by a system of towers and alterations. The new city was named Neapolis in Greek, meaning new city, and survives today as Napoli or Naples. The area around Pellepolis declined into a periphery far from the hubbub of the city. By the time of the Roman Empire, towards the end of the 1st century BC, it was a peaceful countryside where sumptuous patrician villas were built. In our final story, an unprecedented archaeology experiment is putting historical shipboard food and drink to the test. In 1619, a hurricane sank the English merchant ship Warwick in Bermuda's Castle Harbor. The loss was devastating to the struggling settlers of Jamestown, Virginia, who were desperately awaiting the shipload of fresh supplies. Now, almost 400 years later, artifacts from the wreck are helping archaeologist Grace Tsai discover how well unrefrigerated food and drink remained edible and nutritious during long sea voyages. Since 2012, Tsai, a doctoral candidate in nautical archaeology at Texas A&M University, has been studying archaeological records of provisions from 3 different shipwrecks from the 16th and 17th centuries and analyzing shipboard diets based on modern nutritional guidelines. To test how food ages aboard ships, Tsai and her colleagues stored for 2 months the provisions that would have been used on the most similar ship they could find, the 19th century tall ship Elissa, docked in Galveston, Texas. According to Tsai, the goal is to go beyond knowing historic food lists and recipes to learn how well food lasted on transatlantic voyage. The 2-month shipboard study took place from August to October 2017 and included its own hurricane scare when Harvey swept through just a week into the experiment. As reported by Hakai magazine, Tsai and her team had to make all the foodstuffs that would have sustained a 17th century English sailor, such as salted meats, peas, oatmeal, tough biscuits, beer, wine, and a barrel of natural spring water. The project also included a variety of heirloom rice, which was more common in the diets of Spanish or Portuguese sailors. To understand the salted meats of the era, Tsai traveled to Bermuda to study animal bones recovered from the Warwick's wreck. Her examination of butcher marks on cattle bones helped her identify the best size to cut beef to enable preservation. The team also imported sea salt from Guérande, France, a region that has been producing salt for more than 1,000 years, which remains a chef's favorite. While food waste and food have been studied based on archaeological remains, this is the first foray into experimental archaeology with shipboard provisions from that period. Now, Tsai and her colleagues are back in the lab, analyzing the provisions' surviving nutritional value. Chemical analyses are also identifying the microbes that grew on the food, and even any remaining flavors. For safety reasons, nobody will actually be tasting the experimental results, but according to Tsai, the baked ship biscuits are in the best shape, a testament to their legendary hardiness. The salted beef has taken on a pinkish center, resembling prosciutto, and has a pungent smell, though it isn't rotten. The natural spring water turned cloudy with greenish bits and a disgusting smell, which may explain why sailors preferred beer and wine. Even then, lingering yeast fermentation and carbonation caused the beer barrel to leak and grow mold. The biggest surprise came from the diversity of microbes found in some of the food. Early genomic sequencing analyses, mostly from the salted beef, suggest that many of the bacteria are neither illness-causing pathogens nor beneficial probiotics. Most seem to be relatively neutral. The unexpected microbial bounty, however, has forced the researchers to expand their genomic sequencing efforts. Even though no one is eating the food and drink stored aboard the Alyssa, the team is organizing a fundraising event aboard the ship later this month to sample beer based on a historical recipe. That wraps up the news for this week. For more stories and daily news updates, visit Archaeologica on the World Wide Web at archaeologica.org, where all the news is history. I'm Laura Pettigrew, and I'll see you next week.
This has been the audio news from Archaeologica, presented by the Archaeology Channel. Be sure to check back with us next week for our next edition. You can spread the word about the audio news by clicking on the Share This link on our audio news webpage, or just by telling your friends. Thanks very much for stopping by.